In this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to glaze with oil paints. Glazes are thin, transparent layers of paint that are applied over opaque layers of paint. What you see here is paint applied directly in opaque fashion. The glazes will go over that and will enhance and deepen the color quality of the canvas. Glazes reflect light. Unlike opaque layers of paint, they refract light at different levels, almost like a wet stone versus a dry stone. The wet stone seems brighter and shinier, and glazes do the same thing to your painting canvas. So you need a couple of things with your oil paints. You need a painting medium, you need a rag, you need a fairly soft brush, probably a couple of different sizes. You need some solvent, but you won't be using a lot of solvent. So I've laid out a palette here with some colors that would relate to the colors that already exist and would push the colors forward. Colors come in different degrees of transparency. Alizarin crimson here is a very transparent color. This raw umber is a very opaque color. Generally, transparent colors glaze a little better than the opaque colors, but you can glaze with either one. So you want to keep your brush fairly dry, and you want to start with the oil painting medium because you want more medium than pigment. So I'm going to start putting some oil painting medium and get a small amount of this blue. This is an ultramarine blue, which is a fairly transparent color. And I'm going to start layering the color in here. Glazing takes place over many painting sessions as you lay one layer of color on top of another layer of color. This is not a fast technique. This is a slow and loving and laborious technique. You can always spread your color out to get it the degree of transparency that you want. It's better to be a little bit timid rather than to get a thick layer of paint on here. You're going to want the paint to dry between layers of glaze, so you don't want to paint your paint thickly. As you start to work your glazes, you can start to bring out areas and to subvert areas underneath one another. You can use a broad brushy style, or you can lay things in sort of a sequential order. Notice I'm not going into my solvent here. I'm just working just with the glaze. I'm also sort of, as I'm touching the canvas, I'm sort of withholding the brush, so the brush isn't squeezing all the paint out. It's one of the things that's important about painting is thinking about the pressure that you apply the paint with, depending on the technique that you're working with. So I'll put some of this blue down. You can start to see it coming out a bit. See how strong that is? I'm going to dry the brush off. I'm taking the paint off, and so I'm using my paint brush sort of like an eraser. So I'm actually taking some of the glazed pigment off here because I want to feather it into the other colors. I'm going to come in and I think I'm going to do something just for dramatic impact. Now I'm going to clean my brush out because I'm going to a much lighter color. I'm going to go to yellow, which has a tendency to be affected strongly by other colors. So I want to make sure that that blue doesn't get in there. Now you notice here I'm painting with my color directly from the tube, but you can also glaze by mixing colors on your palette and then working in a glaze. I think you'll find this properties of oil painting to be really mysterious and wonderful. You also can come in with a glaze and do white. Now white's a very opaque color, but you can still glaze with it and you can get sort of nice kind of misty veils of color by working. See these feathery, I hope you can see that on the videotape, these sort of feathery whitenesses that I can develop with putting this white layer. Now sometimes you're putting white layer on just to be white, but other times you're putting a white layer on because you're going to go back after it dries and add something like yellow or blue in there, and it'll be a bright, bright blue or yellow. I'm going to put in some umber here because you see there is a lot of umber around in this painting. But now I'm going to come in with an umber glaze, which will see how that darkens that up there. As you start to glaze, you can start to create patterns with the glazes that will guide the viewer's eye and make your painting undulate and be more interesting to look at. This isn't dramatic. This is slow and careful. Fun, but fairly slow and careful technique. I think you get the general idea here. That should give you a sense of how to glaze with oil paints.